Hello and welcome to our final lesson on the topic of cells. In this final lesson, we're going to be talking about how cells are organized to work together in a multicellular organism. In the last lesson, we talked about specialized cells. Remember, there were like red blood cells, and then you get sperm, and if you've heard the rest, there's also nerve cells. How are these many cells organized so that we can form a working organism? I mean, you can't just clump them together. You can't just pile them up together and expect them to work. That just creates a mess. You got to put them together in a certain way so they can work together to form an organism. It's a bit like sometimes we do spring cleaning, right? And we get all our different students who are good at different things. Say, okay, go and clean. But it's a big mess, right? Unless someone organizes them properly into groups. They're doing the same thing, and then ask them to do different tasks. So it's the same with our specialized cells. We can't just leave them to do anything they want. They're going to be organized into groups. So we're going to be starting by talking about levels of organization. Now there are 5 levels of organization. The first level is the cell, and the last level, the 5th one, is the organism. So what are the levels in between? Maybe you still remember some from your Sec 1 years. Well, the levels in between our cells are organized to form tissues. The tissues are organized to form organs. Organs are organized to form organ systems. So there are 5 levels in all, and you need to know these 5 levels by heart. Okay, so cell, tissue, organ system, organism. Okay, pause here to get it into your head if you haven't, and you can move on. So we'll start with the tissue. What is a tissue? Tissue is a group of similar cells that look alike, that are grouped together to work together and perform a specific function. So I need some examples I think that will help you. For example, this is epidermal tissue. Okay, epidermal tissue is like the tissue at the most surface of your skin here in the epidermis. This is a picture of your skin, right? And the top layer is called the epidermis. That's the epidermal tissue. And if you see the cells, they all look very alike. So they're all made out of epidermal cells working together to do what? To protect the inner part of the organism. That's what your skin basically does. So epidermal tissue is a group of cells working together to protect the inner part of the organism. And we say this is a simple tissue because all the cells look roughly the same. The cells similar or identical. Another example of simple tissue which you encounter quite often is muscle tissue. And muscle tissue is a group of muscle cells working together to produce movement. And you have muscle tissue almost everywhere in all your organs. Here you see the individual cells. Each one of them is a nucleus, right? And all of them look quite similar again. So this is a simple tissue. They're all grouped together to form muscle tissue. A complex tissue is made out of more than one type of cell. So for example, blood is a complex tissue. Right? You've got red blood cells. This is your red blood cell. But you've also got these. What do you think these are? And these are actually white blood cells. Okay, but together, they work together to perform the function of transport. So they transport substances. And also defense, right? We'll talk more about that in another topic, but they actually work together to defend your body against injuries and against outside invaders. Later on the topic of plants, we'll also talk about a certain tissue called phloem tissue. Okay, phloem tissue transports sugars, okay, transports. And you'll see that it's made out of more than one type of cell. Over here, how many different types of cells do you see? Well, I see 2 types. There's the sieve tube member, this green one, which is just the tube where the sugars run through. But you also have this companion cell, who is like a good friend, sticking very close to his sieve tube member. He is a buddy. And in the future lessons, we'll look more about how they work together. But this is phloem tissue made out of more than one type of cell, so that's a complex tissue. So after tissue, what do we have? You have organs. So what's an organ? An organ is a group of different tissues that work together to perform a specific function. So different tissues performing a specific function together. For example, your stomach. You know that your stomach is made out of many different tissues, right? They're not just, it has a layer of, again, see the muscle tissue? There's a layer of muscle tissue that allows the stomach to contract and churn and churn. It's got connective tissue to basically hold the organ together. It's got nervous tissue to detect food, right? To detect the presence of substances. It's got blood to supply the stomach with oxygen. It's got this epithelium, okay, the layer of cells closest to the food, which produce the mucus, which produce the acid to digest. So it's got many different tissues, okay, but they all work together for one function, digestion. Another example is the leaf in the plant. Okay, the leaf is an organ made of different tissues as well. Okay, if you look at this diagram here, you will see that there's a top layer of epidermis. Okay, let me show you that. There you go. This top layer here is labeled as the epidermis. So there's an epidermal tissue. Okay, there's an upper one and there's also a lower one. Okay, and in between you have all these cells, in between different type of cells here, different type of tissue. The palisade, spongy mesophyll. Don't worry, we'll talk about that in another lesson, another topic. But you also see the xylem and the phloem. So there's xylem tissue, there's epidermal tissue, the different tissues, and they all come together to work to help the leaf to do photosynthesis. Okay, the xylem brings water to the leaf, right? The epidermis allows light to enter. So all this allows the leaf to be functioning to perform photosynthesis. So that's organs. What's after organs? You have organ systems. So an organ system is just a group of different organs that work together to perform a specific function. And I'm sure you can think of a lot of organ systems. We're going to be exploring a lot of them in our rest of the year. Starting with the digestive system, right? You all should be familiar with the digestive system. It's one of your favorite in secondary 2. The digestive system, and you got your circulatory system made of your blood vessels, your heart, that carries, transport substances around your body. In plants, there are two main systems. Okay, very simple, right? Plants. You just got the shoot system above the ground and the root system below the ground. And the root system to absorb water. The shoot system to produce food. Two main systems. Right. So I want to just end off with two examples of these 5 levels of organization. So for example, in animals, remember we talked about muscle cells. Okay, so from muscle cell, it could be organized, they can be organized to muscle tissue. Then muscle tissue together with other tissues becomes an organ, the heart. And the heart, along with other organs, becomes the circulatory system. And all this makes up the organism, along with other systems. So this is an example from animals. How about plants? For plants, I got 2 examples. The first one, okay, we start out from the root hair cell, one cell. Remember the root hair cell? Okay, this can be all the root hair cells combined together. See here, all of them combined together. Okay, they form the root epidermis, the outer layer of the root. But together, the root epidermis and other tissues like xylem and phloem, okay, they form the root, which is an organ. And the root, of course, is part of a bigger system, the root system. And together, the root system and the shoot system form the organism, the plant. One last example. Okay, we talk about leaves. So remember, the leaf has many different cells. One of the cells you call the leaf epidermal cell. This one here in the top. One cell in the upper epidermis, the epidermal cell. Okay, all of these many upper epidermis cells together forms the epidermis, the tissue. The epidermis together with the other types of tissue like your palisade layer, spongy layer, your xylem, which is not in this diagram, but all these tissues together form your organ, the leaf. And the leaf together with many other leaves and other organs form the shoot system. And this shoot system together with the root system forms your organism, the plant. Right, so to end off, just want to ask you all a question for practice. This is a artery, a blood vessel. Now just looking at this diagram, do you think that it's a tissue, an organ, or organ system? Well, if you answered organ, then you are correct. It's an organ because it's made out of different tissues. Because there's this, there are a few different layers. Don't need to know the names, but you can just see that there are different layers of different types of cells. So it's made out of different tissues as an organ. It's not a tissue because you can see that it's made out of very, very different kind of cells. And it's not an organ system because it's not big enough. It's just one organ, part of the circulatory system. Alright, so that's all for our lesson on levels of organization. Okay, look forward to seeing you in class and to work through the examples together. Thanks.